Chapter 1: The President. Everyone move, the president's been shot. Out of the way. Sarah Brewster watched in horror as the one man in the world whose life she was responsible for was wheeled into the operating room, his blood coating her blouse and skirt. The first woman ever selected to be the senior agent in charge of the president's protection detail would now be the first woman to lose a president. She had done everything right, all that she knew how to do, and still she failed. Good going, had the job for a week, and you fucked it up. Robertson was her rival, a man competing for the job. Competitive, arrogant, and one of the boys, he had expected to get the top slot. What's next, Brewster? After this, they won't let you protect the president's potty. She wanted to vomit. Sitting because her shaky legs could not hold her any longer, she was alone in her failure. Colleagues and friends whispering to each other just out of earshot. Secret Service Senior Agent Sarah Brewster wished that at least one of those 3 bullets had hit her instead. Brewster, get in here and do your goddamn job for once. Her boss had arrived and was motioning for her to get into the operating room viewing theater. Assistant Director Lewis had opposed her appointment and never missed an opportunity to let her know it. I knew you couldn't handle this job. I want you to hear firsthand what your screw-up caused. For doctors, X-rays on video screens, 3 explosive bullets lodged in 3 different locations. Sarah heard the prognosis, and it was now officially a death watch, 1, maybe 2 hours at most. Behind her lay President John Matthews, the man whose word had made her responsible for his safety. They were arguing, not one of them would touch the patient. A 5th doctor walked in holding charts, she supposed. Director Lewis, I am Dr. Albert Griffin, Chief of Thoracic Surgery here at NYU, and I tell you that there is only one surgeon on earth that I know can save this patient's life. I watched her perform a dozen operations just like this the day the cyborgs invaded. I just got off the phone with her, and if you permit me, I can get her here in 5 minutes with her team. Brewster, get your ass in gear and take a detail and pick up this doctor. No need. She's in Stockholm at the moment at a conference on advanced medicine. Quantum Advanced Medical has one of their portals here for UN medical emergencies, and her team is already on the way. If she isn't a U.S. citizen, we can't clear her. She could kill the president. Griffin needed to make himself very clear. The president is already dead, Mr. Lewis. This is your only choice. If you want to save President Matthews' life, Dr. Tashi Monk is your only chance. I've already sent her the data. I'm not taking the responsibility for allowing an uncleared per. I will. Sarah interrupted. I've met Tashi Monk. I am still the head of the President's protection detail, and it's still my call. Where is the portal, Dr. Griffin? Brewster, if this person screws up, I'll have you up on treason charges. I'll get you some scrubs, Agent Brewster. You look like the victim in a grade B horror movie, all covered in blood. The blood was starting to dry and reporters were getting pictures of her through the guarded glass doors. It was an 8-foot square white wall with a green light on top, sitting in a restricted area off of the lobby. As the light turned green, a small Asian woman maybe 5 feet tall with blue eyes appeared, dressed in a light blue evening gown. She was followed by a slightly taller blonde carrying a large medical bag, and a brunette woman in her 30s in a black pantsuit and one very familiar face. Tony Banner. My God, what are you doing here? This is Quantum Enforcement Team Dragon, Tashi's protection detail. This is Agent Vilma Janos, Margarita, and the man coming through now is Tom Davis, QE's best tech. I believe that you already know Dr. Tashi Monk. Tashi bowed slightly, offering her hand to Dr. Griffin, who greeted her warmly. Dr. Griffin, I have missed you. I had expected to see you in Stockholm, but I can see why you were busy. Margarita will assist me as she is also a qualified physician, and I will need Mr. Davis to help set up the equipment. Can you show me to the patient, Dr. Griffin? It is a pleasure to see you again, Agent Sarah Brewster. Pleasure isn't how she would describe her feelings at the moment. Desperation, hope born of need, and the longing for a friend that had not abandoned her would be better descriptions of what she felt. Tony. It all went to hell so fast. We still don't know where the shots came from. Robertson stood in his path, blocking his way, flanked by two other agents, Adams and Smith. You want to shut up, Brewster. Banner isn't part of the band anymore. Left the Secret Service to join the Yahoos in Geneva. Just what are you doing here? I'll take that weapon if you don't mind. As per the UN Quantum Accords, I have full authority here. As long as Tashi is here and I am investigating the use of a quantum-class weapon, you will stand down, Robbie. Your weapon, sir. Out of my way, Robbie. The last thing she needed was a testosterone-driven shootout in the lobby of a hospital in the front of the press with their noses pressed on the front windows. Put your peckers away, boys. Tony Banner is a UN diplomatic bodyguard on assignment and is authorized to be armed. We invited them, as you recall. It felt like old home week for the smiling Banner. Vilma, watch over Tashi from the OR theater. Agent Brewster and I have some catching up to do. I can see you've had a hard day, Sarah. Coffee? The cafeteria was on the second floor and was nearly empty. Unnecessary personnel had been sent home with the president in the building and the Secret Service acting like the disturbed residents of a hornet's nest. Tony gulped his orange juice as Sarah relaxed a bit for the first time in hours, Robertson and his minions looking on from a table over. You never stood a chance, Sarah. The weapon was fired from 11 miles out, with terminal guidance by a drone. Once we realized what the drone was doing, we jammed the signal to explode the bullets. The shooter may not have even been present when the trigger was pulled. 3 shooters, dickhead. 3 simultaneous bullets. No, Robbie. 1 gun, 1 shooter, 3 bullets. The prototype was developed for the CIA by the NDRA and disappeared when Brady went walkabout. God, I'm starting to sound like Max now. The same gun was used to kill Edgar Bernhard in Brussels 2 years ago, although from a closer range. It was designed for high-value assassinations where security is too tight. Tony, how do you know how far away it was fired from? Track the signal. It was fired from a church steeple in New Jersey. My technicians are there now. You have what? Robertson was now standing over him. This is MY investigation, Banner. You ain't part of the Secret Service anymore, dickhead. Tony grinned as he shoved the last bit of day-old glazed donut into his mouth. Investigating the attempted assassination of the President of the United States is Secret Service business, Robbie. Getting that gun is mine. That weapon is restricted technology under the Quantum Accords, Robbie. I'll turn the shooter over as soon as we get him. What makes you think that you can find the shooter before we do, Banner? Technology and competence, Robbie. Technology and competence. Vilma made her way into the cafeteria, standing opposite Tony. The president is awake and the first lady is with him. Margarita is briefing the president now on the coup attempt. Once you get changed, Agent Sarah Brewster, I believe that the president will want you back in Washington to arrest Vice President Sampson and Secretary of Defense Maddox. Thank you, Agent Llanos. Vilma Llanos, formerly a detective with Czech Federal Police, her strong accent catching the attention of the U.S. Secret Service agents in the room. Tony, you were right, the shooter did pull the trigger. He was an Italian man with no connections to the U.S. government or the old cartel. Placing what looked like a cell phone on the table, a 3D hologram of the suspect appeared. We pulled DNA off of a cigar, but he left at the scene, and from local surveillance cameras we have a clear picture, and we are tracking his cell phone now. He is on the way to Newark Airport. His name, Agent Brewster, is Benito Salvador, and there is now an Interpol warrant on him. Section 7 has been notified. Vilma snatched one of Tony's chips before continuing. We traced the cash back to Maddox via a series of wire transfers. The weapon is heading south on the expressway you call I-70 in the hands of a CIA operative named Jared Rodriguez. He used an official government vehicle, so we are tracking him through the car's GPS. Once Margarita and I get Tashi back to her conference, Budweiser and Team Apache will take the gun and make the arrest. Director Mike Malone sends you his compliments. Says Susan would be proud of us. I see, Vilma. Robbie, it's what I said, technology incompetence. Sarah, if you hurry, you can make the arrest at Newark Airport. Take Robbie, Tweedledum, and Tweedledummer over there with you. He's armed with an undetectable weapon also supplied by the CIA. He had arrived like the cavalry just in the nick of time, and like John Wayne in a Western, Tony Banner had simply assumed command as he had so many times. Yet, the arrest would be hers and would be gratifying. On behalf of the United States government and the Secret Service, and most of all me, I thank you, Tony. See you next month in Paris at the summit, Sarah. I'll be working security for that also. It was nearing harvest time in the cornfields of Oklahoma, the stalks reaching 7 or 8 feet. Tony stared out from the porch at the small rural town in the distance, remembering how simple life was just a few decades ago. Beside him, an old man in his 70s. I see the U.S. Secret Service got the guy who shot the president. Damn fine organization, the Secret Service. You should have joined the Secret Service when you quit the Border Patrol, Tony, like that girl you used to hang out with. Sarah was her name. It's a real shame that the vice president had a heart attack and the culprit Maddox shot himself. Anyways, the hero was some lady named Sally Brewer or Brewski or something like that. Pops Banner stood, leaning on the porch rail, gazing out at the fields of corn and watching a young blonde woman work on his rusted harvester. Tony Banner sipped his coffee, relaxing with the local paper on the porch, the Hicksville Hollerer open to the sports page, mostly local high schools. It had been years since he had been home and the old farm was a bit run down. Still, it was a place where the memories were happy and for the first time in memory he could relax. The hero was Sarah Brewster, Pops, the girl I used to hang out with. You could have done real well for yourself in the Secret Service. Now what are you doing, a lousy mall cop in Geneva, Virginia? Arresting shoplifters and kids on skates? What kind of life is that for a man of action like you? Pops turned to face the fit black-haired son who had shown so much promise growing up. At least go back to the Border Patrol. Snazzy uniforms, and they even give you a nice truck, not like that beat-up old Jeep your girlfriend is driving. It was a nice day in Oklahoma, corn as far as the eye could see. In the distance, a small town he grew up in, the top of the high school just visible between two copses of trees. The Jeep does have some interesting features, Pop. Rent a real car when you go to your reunion, Tony. That Sanger girl is still available. A nice boy like you ought to be married by now. What's wrong with that Margarita? Smart girl, and really polite. She's good with machines, fixed the tractor and the harvester. Got the old truck running better, too. No one understands machinery better than Margarita, Pops. Indeed, it was as if she were a machine herself, Tony thought. And that Wilma girl isn't bad either. Vilma, Pop. She's check. What's wrong with American girls, Tony? But at your age, you take what you can get. Thanks, Pop. Vilma opened the screen door, drying her hands on the kitchen towel. The smell of pot roast escaping to the porch was the signal that both of them were waiting for. And what's wrong with a girl who can cook? Girls in America can't cook anymore. This is a keeper, Tony. Like your blessed mother, now she could cook, no offense Wilma. No offense taken, Mr. Banner, with a smile. I'll get Margarita, she's in the shed. Tony made his way to the small half-acre patch of walled-off land behind the shed. A bit overgrown and needing to be weeded, the Banner family graveyard was nearly full, with just enough plot left for himself and the family that he knew he would never have. The years had not been kind to the family farm. So much to do that a man in his 60s and now 70s never found the energy for. Like farms all over the county, old men without a son either by choice or chance dying a slow death, selling land to this corporation or that land developer. Only his paycheck had kept his father afloat. A somber Margarita, the blonde-haired Karma variant, improved, had found the family cemetery and was reading the tombstones. Dinner is ready, Margarita, not that you need to eat. At least pretend. Milton the mangy mutt will appreciate anything that you drop on the floor. Was this your mother, Tony? She stared down at the granite tombstone, one of the better ones in the neglected patch of cemetery. Yes. My Uncle Bob and his wife Naomi over there, my brother Bill and his wife and son over there. My brother Sam is in the Veterans Cemetery in Arlington. I'm the last Banner. It's why my pop is pushing me to get married. Elizabeth Jane Banner, how did she die? Cancer. Paying for the treatments nearly destroyed Pop. In the same week my brother, a U.S. Marine, took a bullet in some sandy hellhole, and on the way back from that funeral Bill's family was killed by a drunk running a red light. The fire went out in Pop after that. It was an explanation that nearly killed him. Your father has stage 3 liver cancer, Tony. I can help, but it is illegal in the United States. At most, he has a year. I can give him 10, maybe more, but he didn't seem to want it. I don't understand, but he seems happy to be dying. Can you explain? Tony took a deep breath as he considered Margarita's question. A man is defined by his family and the relationships that he makes. It's love that gives life value, and everyone he loves is here in this cemetery. Without the people we love, what's left? It was a cool early evening and Tony watched the black Mercedes roll up the dirt driveway. Getting out, his date for this evening had arrived. Brunette, a hair taller than the average woman, she was dressed to impress. Sarah, you look lovely this evening. He needed a date, and since he needed an excuse to even be in the nation of his birth, a class reunion during a visit to a dying father was the perfect cover. I see that the president is now supporting the Android Accords. Tashi's little gift of life have anything to do with that? Probably. The Secret Service isn't happy that I let a prototype android work on President Matthews. That and of course Dr. Morgan's refusal to make a special deal. The Russian president has android bodyguards who foiled an attack on him last month. Now he wants an android doctor and an android staff, just like Ivanov has. You do know that Margarita isn't allowed in the country, don't you? I heard that. The U.S. government wasn't particular about it when it was to save the president's life. I see she has the flying Jeep. I bet that's a feature that the DMV isn't aware of. No wheel drive. Not likely. I did ask her to keep it subsonic. Don't need no booms. Booms, she chuckled. So is Margarita here to save your father's life, Tony? Had occurred to me, but Margarita asked and Pops doesn't want it. So why does the president want to talk to me? If you need to ask that, you aren't a very good detective, Tony. You uncovered a coup attempt involving his assassination. Your team did in hours what the Secret Service would never be able to do until it's too late. You saved the nation, Tony. The president has a proposal to make. Standing by the door on the porch, Vilma, Margarita, and Pops stood watching the perfect couple walk toward them. Hey Pop, you might remember Sarah Brewster, the hero who caught the president's shooter. Do I? Come in. I was telling Tony that he should have joined the Secret Service like you did. A mall cop he became. Go back to the Border Patrol, I said. Maybe he will listen to you. What brings you to Hicksville? What is it, senior agent to the president, Sarah Brewster? Just Sarah tonight, Mr. Banner. Behind the old man, Vilma was signaling to play along. On vacation to see my folks and ran into Tony and crew at the mall. Since I had some time off, I wanted to talk to him about us. Your son is a great mall cop. We should get going, Sarah. Need the keys to the Jeep, Margarita. Sarah shook her head laughing. No way, Tony. We'll take my Mercedes. It's safer. Is that the woman who caught the man who shot the president with Tony Banner? He always had a way with the ladies. Bert Kowalski was the town mechanic as well as its mayor. Pass me another beer, Fred. Nah, can't be. Wasn't Tony a border patrol sheriff or something? Yeah, George, but he left that. A mall cop in Virginia, according to Pops. Is that right? Sheriff Marcus is getting a bit on. He could use a good deputy. Tony was the best badge this county ever had, if you remember. Yeah, Bert, Tony caught that serial rapist and the biker gang that killed the Millers. He can't be a mall cop. That boy had talent. Maybe he's a spy or something. Let's find out. Bert Kowalski wasn't exactly a friend, but it had been 15 years, and Tony must have forgotten that little incident by now. Walking over, he tapped the man on the shoulder. Hey, Tony, good to see you, boy. How's the best damn cop we ever had in this town? Your job's still open if you are wanting it. Bert. Mayor Bert Kowalski, you done well, Mayor. I'm jealous. I want you to meet Sarah Brewster. I met Sarah when I was Border Patrol, and she was... You are the one who caught the guy who shot the president. I didn't vote for the guy, but hell,
Thanks,
lady, Tony,
you done a nice
saved
job.
my job again. This is really
Thank
important
you,
to the
Mayor.
president. I had help. Sarah is much too modest, Bert. You should hear the other Secret Service guys talk about her at the mall. A real hero, like the sandwich with all the trimmings. Tony, stop it. His date had caught the attention of another blast from the past. Now the editor of the town's local paper, she made her way across the room. Thanks, Tony. My name is Matilda Hawthorne, Agent Brewster. You can call me Maddie. I write for the Hickville Hollerer, and I was wondering if... Taking the opportunity to make his escape, Tony made his way toward the door where an older police officer seemed to be waiting for him, leaving Sarah to the mercies of townsfolk that loved a genuine celebrity. Where you going, Mr. Banner? Walk with me outside. Sheriff Marcus, it's been too long. Had some strange calls about a flying Jeep, son. 2 women just drove it off Lover's Lane. Secret Service crashed into the guardrail following him. Know anything about that? I've been here for 2 hours, Sheriff. Everyone, including the mayor, can verify that. Lord hates a liar, Tony. You were the best damn cop I ever met. You went to the Border Patrol and you made me proud, son. Couple of years later, the Secret Service comes knocking at my door wanting to know if you belonged in with the best of the best. What did you tell him? I think you know that, Tony. I kept eyes on you, and then I hear that you were in charge of protecting the president. It made me proud, son. Job didn't work out. I had to move on, sir. Cut the crap, boy. When you came to town last week, I ran a check on you, and I got nothing. Like you don't exist. School records, employment records, hell, even my own personnel files gone. That pissed me off. The cool night air and bright stars that lit up the night reminded Tony of those simple days on night shift, busting drunks and giving tickets. Small town living that had bored the hell out of him seemed so much better now. Sheriff Marcus was no fool. Tony, when they shot the president, that girl was there in the hospital, and when I looked in the background of the videos was you and those 2 women that you are with. That boy who arrived with the equipment at NYU is sitting in that van across the street over there. I know a stakeout when I see one. Sheriff Marcus, I've had 2 great examples of what it means to be a police officer in my life. You were the first, and you taught me how to put people first and the true weight of the badge. The second was a 5-foot Chinese lady who took me under her wing and taught me to do what I had to regardless of my druthers. I only had a couple of months with her, and I watched her die to save the future of mankind and 500,000 people. You knew Susan Lei? I was her special project, Sheriff. I was with her at Punta Ora. I was part of her team that did what had to be done. You know about the battles. What you never hear about are the thousands of times quantum enforcement stopped a threat where no one was killed, where a city was saved, when we stopped an assassination or rescued a child or stopped a war. In my interview with you, I told you that I wanted to make a difference. I make a difference, Sheriff Marcus. So what brings you to Hicksville, Mr. Man that don't exist? Pop's dying. Liver cancer. Saying goodbye. Nothing more sinister than that. It gives Vilma a chance to see real America, and Margarita a chance to see real people, not the kind of trash we normally see. Sarah is here to get me to see the president. Job offer, Tony? I already have the most important job in the world, sir. Thanks, Tony, you saved my job again. This is really important to the president. They stood side by side outside the Oval Office waiting for the president. He could hear the arguments inside, as he had heard them from the previous 3 presidents. You could have taken Susan Lei up on her offer, Agent Sarah Brewster. You really liked working for Susan, didn't you? What happened? Susan Lei implanted a Megiddo device in herself after surgically removing her own womb and convinced the most evil mega-villain on the planet to hire her after smuggling a fake 17-year-old girl into his evil lair, and then earning his trust by shooting the fake Karma Bio droid in the head who had actually cracked the bad guy's network. She then lured the evil dude to a desolate place with his closest 25,000 friends, all cyborgs, detonated the device, thereby saving 500,000 people, dedicating the city of peace, and 40 world leaders, must not forget them, and putting into motion the plan to end the mega-evil cartel, bring down a dozen corrupt governments, restoring peace and justice to the world. You helped her do that? Sounds like a plot to a bad B movie. Edith's dad has the movie rights. He did the Tibetan Girl movie, and I think it'll be called The Redemption of Colonel Lei Chang. I wonder who they will get to play me in the movie. Was he serious? That sounds like a busy day. Pretty typical, really. I hope it's someone as handsome and debonair as me. What does debonair mean anyway? The door to the Oval Office opened with Richardson standing at attention, motioning for him to come in. President John Matthews met him at the door, offering his hand. Tony Banner, what a pleasure. To you, I owe my life and the Secret Service its reputation. Agent Brewster told me how you cracked the case and sat back while she made the arrest. To be fair, Mr. President, Quantum Enforcement had no authority to make that arrest. I had to give it to the Secret Service. Yes, you did, Mr. Banner. That's the job of the Secret Service, not the UN. The other arrest concerns me greatly. He had something of ours that needs to be returned, Tony. That rifle is evidence in an ongoing treason investigation. The rifle will be destroyed, Mr. President. As far as Jared Rodriguez is concerned, that question is best left to Director Denia Franklin, our diplomacy chief. But that isn't why I am here, is it, Mr. President? You know that I have no say in those things. No, I don't imagine that you do, Tony. This nation is in crisis, and thanks to you, I'm standing here alive and a coup attempt failed. You are a man of talent and judgment, Agent Tony Banner. Sheriff Marcus, your Border Patrol supervisors, and every one of your compatriots in the Secret Service thought that you were the best they ever saw. From what I've seen, they are right. Thank you, sir. You might give some credit to Dr. Tashi Monk and Margarita for saving your life. Indeed, the robots, indeed. I'm told that you knew Director Susan Lei personally. Tony smiled a bit. All quantum agents knew Susan Lei personally. She led from the front and picked every agent herself. She did what needed to be done to keep the world from spinning out of control. Susan defended America more than once. Now, that's my job. Pretty big job. Poaching you may have been her biggest achievement. Let's get to the point, Agent Tony Banner. The Secret Service isn't doing the job. New technology has made them obsolete. Hell, all of them, the FBI, the CIA, are all useless. Your quantum enforcement runs rings around everyone. We need a new, high-tech agency. Unlimited funding and the best people, just like quantum enforcement. I want you to lead that organization, Tony. Write your own check, make your own title. That's a nice offer, President Matthews. I appreciate your confidence, but without Morgan's quantum research technology, it's a waste of time. We are working on that, Tony. Soon we will have androids and quantum computers. You are back engineering illegal cartel technology that under the UN Quantum Accords the United States isn't allowed. We have to be able to defend ourselves, Mr. Banner. This is American technology developed by our NDRA. It's American technology stolen by Morgan. We need androids programmed our way. As weapons. Yes, as weapons. Weapons under our control. Weapons that replace men on battlefields and save American lives, Tony Banner. In violation of the UN Android Accords. Androids can't be turned into soldiers, Mr. President. Damn it, Banner, do you want the job or not? No, Mr. President. I already have that job. As senator, Matthews had been a severe critic of quantum research. He was an even more bitter critic of quantum enforcement, the agency that had been set up to deny dark matter energy and weapons technologies to powers like the United States. No wasn't the answer that the man was looking for. That is unfortunate, Mr. Banner. Very disappointing. I was under the impression that you were a patriot. I defend America every day from threats that you can't even conceive. I've saved your life twice as I see it, once in Bernhardt City and once in New York. You want an agency to defend America, Mr. President? Who the hell fought your cyborgs in Washington and New York City? All this in spite of an act of nuclear terrorism in Switzerland. And do you know who America's best advocate at quantum was, President Matthews? It was Susan Lei who kept the world from going to war with the U.S. every time quantum caught it in the act. Sitting behind his desk, it was clear to Tony that this wasn't the response a very unhappy president had expected. The door opened behind him, Richardson and Sarah Brewster walked in. Brewster, you are being reassigned. Richardson, you will be taking over. Escort this traitor off the White House grounds. I know the way, Robbie. Sorry, Sarah.